recall. And part of the AGM, apart from doing all the really exciting stuff like reappointing the auditors and approving the accounts, is that Neil gives sort of his state of the nation view on what's been going on. And obviously there's an awful lot been going on, or sadly not been going on in other respects. And what I said when we moved the AGM online is that come the autumn, when things were possibly back to normal, we were going to run a series of roadshows where Neil and I and maybe some other members of the board thought we'd come out to the various regions and home nations and see people and do this face to face. Then we got hit by a second lockdown, so we decided as a sort of worst case basis, we'd just put on a webinar and present to you what we would have presented at the AGM or the road shows, and to take your questions, so you, the members, have an opportunity to find out what we've been doing. The note has gone up to say this webinar will be recorded and shared with those that can't attend. That's great. Obviously, you're going to be muted. If you prefer not to have your pictures on screen, please turn your video off, I think is probably the first thing to say there. As we go through, the format is Neil's got a little presentation he's going to share with us, just sort of talking about where we've gone, what we've done, where we're planning to go. We've asked for questions in advance, and we've got a number of very good questions, thank you, that have come in beforehand, but we've got the chat box here. So as we go through, rather than sort of turning your mics on, which I say gets a bit messy with quite a lot of people on board, if you've got any thoughts or questions, please type them into the chat box and we'll take them as we go through. So I think probably the starting point then is to hand over to Neil, who will let us know what AGB's been up to.
First rule of these meetings is never try to speak on mute, so I'm unmuted. Many thanks to everyone on the call this evening, and thanks, Mark, for that introduction. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to update you on our progress with our current strategy, which has been over the last 4 years. I can update you on areas where we haven't made much progress. I'm going to be extremely transparent, but also introduce you to the direction of travel for our future strategy and where we're going to take the organisation and the membership. So I will attempt to share my screen with you. We've got a short slideshow here. Can we all see that? Jolly good, jolly good. Okay. Right. You may well be familiar with the 5 pillars of our current strategy. I will go through them in case you're not. But we have 5 main pillars, helpfully all beginning with the letter P. So I'll run through where we're up to or not with those ambitions. With the places, our places strategy was to develop 50 new places to shoot and ensure places are accessible and easy to find. Unfortunately, we weren't able to fulfil this objective because we didn't receive sufficient funding from government to do so. I'll talk more about our issues around funding later on. So we focused on delivering support for both clubs and members with online learning, a regional development officer, and we benefited from many opportunities to meet with clubs and archers face-to-face via workshops and also via the SAG, the SAG, the Strategic Advisory Group, for which we're really grateful to the expert volunteers who contribute to that group. So more of the same will be happening as we talk about the new strategy going forward in a little more detail. Participation. Without the necessary funding to embark on a major member acquisition campaign, we focused on keeping existing members in the sport for longer. So we couldn't bring in 10,000 new members into the sport, but what we did do was prevent those already in the sport from leaving by giving them and delivering them more relevant offer. Our attrition rate was worse than the industry standard. So we sought to address this first. So more people were leaving than we would normally expect in the sport. So my challenge was, why bring more members in only to have them leave shortly afterwards? So we aimed to increase our retention rate up to 70% over the 4-year cycle. And we achieved this after 3 years. We recruited new resources to help us understand the needs of the membership much better. We improved the quality of our services, which resulted in significant improvements in member satisfaction. Again, I'll talk more specifically about that later. Our offerings for better coaching and competitions, allowing members to progress, was key to improving our retention. We also invested in enhancing our offer to young archers via better school competitions and Project Remaya to help archery in the Muslim community. So we were disappointed, but I think the activities that we've done have encouraged younger and vibrant archers to join us. I'll go back the right way. Principles, the third thing. This is not about what we do. This is about how we do it. This is about culture. It's about governance. We felt the impact of poor governance back in 2016 and 2017, when we lost significant amounts of funding from Sport England and UK Sport as a consequence. Since then, we've worked hard to repair our reputation with our funding partners, and we achieved compliance with the Sports Governance Code. We established the group I mentioned earlier, the Strategic Advisory Group, the SAG, from our volunteer community, and we launched a staff engagement forum to provide a mechanism to listen to more closely to staff and to give them an important role in developing the culture and the values of the organisation. And more recently, we've grown our volunteer base by 1,000 new and willing participants, for which I am absolutely and hugely grateful. Thank you for stepping forward. Our ambitions around the podium. Clearly, sports do better around the 4-year cycle, around the Olympics and the Paralympics. And these also act as really good acquisition tools for more membership. But reporting back on the last 4 years, the Olympic and our Olympic and Paralympic ambitions were really strong as we came out of Rio. We led the para archery medal tables, the best in the world. Against an initial backdrop of a loss of all Olympic funding, however, we have now been able to secure almost 90% of it back from a successful persuasion, influencing and political lobbying campaign. The outcome of this, I'm really pleased to report, is this resulted in a full set of quota places for the Olympics for Tokyo. That's 3 men and 3 women, plus at least, and I'm saying at least because there's more to come, at least 5 places for the para squad. A fantastic medal-winning performance in 2019 was proof that our work to restore the funding was well placed. And I have to say, I'm really looking forward to the results from Tokyo 2021. I never thought I'd be saying that at the outset of our strategy. Whoops, I'm struggling with steering here. Progress, another P of our strategy. As I mentioned earlier, we aim to retain our valued members. So we need to provide better opportunities for them to progress. So via Insight, we uncovered and we discovered more about why people stay in the sport. Why people stay in the sport is around progression. And to develop that progression, people wanted better coaching, more coaching, and a better competition system that really addresses the longer term needs of the sport, providing opportunities for our members to progress. So we focused on improving our coaching and competition offers. We continue to work with Birmingham University to develop our new empowered coaching program, and we've refreshed our entry-level coaching courses with greater levels of flexible learning. Now, most of you will know John Knott, who's developed our national series, which last year culminated at a great final at Caldicot Castle in Wales. It was generously supported, amongst others, by sponsors like Wales Archery and Starling Bank. Many thanks go to John Knott and his team and the volunteers for staging such a great event. This year's National Series final was a little different under strict lockdown rules, but nonetheless was another success. I am disappointed under the competitions not to be running the National Indoors this year, but I'm sure most of you on the call will understand the current challenging circumstances. It's just not possible. John and his team, though, have got plans for a virtual competition, which is similar to the 360 event that we held over the summer. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's where we leave on my report on the progress of our current strategy. And we're going to take a look now at key highlights from the survey of memberships during this, the most difficult of years. Oh dear, I'm really messing up here. Come on, there we go. Well, communications. During the pandemic, all at AGB have worked really tirelessly to ensure that the sport and the national governing body survives. The key to this is keeping everybody updated and informed with really good communications. Now, I understand and appreciate we don't get it right all of the time for every single person, but we do check how our members receive the communications, what they think of it. And our research indicates, in the main, that we're getting it right for most members. Thanks for your feedback. Thanks for if you participated in this piece of research. It was really important to us to make sure we're on the right track. But be assured, we listen to your feedback and we will continue to do so. Satisfaction. As I mentioned earlier, a key measure of the impact of our leadership and strategy is what our members think about us. When we first measured member satisfaction, when I first joined Archery GB, it was only at 25%. For a CEO coming into an organisation with that kind of a statement of satisfaction, I was pretty upset and disappointed. It's a huge task. But as you can see, over the years, we've gone from 25% to 68% satisfaction. Now, that still leaves us with some way to go, but it's a massive improvement. And I must say thank you to all the staff and volunteers who contributed to this result. We're not going to stop here, and we will aim to get to higher levels of member satisfaction. Returning to archery, this indeed filled me with pleasure. This survey was carried out in July this year. And at that time, excuse me, at that time I was really pleased to see that over half of our members had returned to shooting, with a further 17% being ready to return once their club opened up again. Although I'm aware that the winter indoor season presents its own challenges, but it was really good to see that passion and enthusiasm in that data. So that's where we were in the summer. And that's where we were in terms of our strategy. So now we'll take a look into the future. And we'll talk about our future direction and strategic aims. Our future strategy is based around the three items that you see there. Everything I wanted to do was to enrich lives through our sport of archery. Anyone that touches archery, anyone that archery touches, I want them to come out of this with an enriched experience, be it a volunteer, be it a participant, or be it a coach, or be it anyone that actually picks up a bow and arrow. Now, they may not be members. There may be people that picked up a bow and arrow on holiday at Centre Parks or at Park Dean Holidays or one of our partners. But I want everybody that picks up a bow and arrow to have their lives enriched. Our vision defines the purpose. It's about why we exist, what we want to achieve, and what we want to do. Our values, they represent how we operate, and we want to operate in a positive and encouraging environment. Those values apply to our whole organisation. We use the staff and the volunteer groups to help us develop these. So these values apply to everybody throughout the organisation, from anybody that picks up a bow right up to the board. So we've looked at our purpose in our vision. We've looked at our values in terms of how we go about things. So what are we going to do? What's our mission? So our mission now, in the advent and the occurrence of COVID, our mission is to rebuild, reimagine, and represent archery following what has to be one of the worst years for our sport. It's a huge task against a backdrop of significant challenge. We've identified a number of key strategic ambitions, and I'll take you through those now. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail because the strategy development is still a significant piece of work in progress. But I want to take a look at our delivery structure. Well, why? Well, our delivery structure was set up in the 1950s, and it may not be the most appropriate structure still for this millennium. But what I want to assure you is that members will be at the heart of everything we do as we review it, and we ensure it remains relevant for a 21st century and it's effective. So many of you will be involved in the consultation as we revisit this structure, and I look forward to working with you. Empowered workforce. So this is around volunteers, and our organisation relies on an army of amazing people, amazing volunteers, and we want to provide their experience with feelings of autonomy, belonging, and give them competence, develop their skills, and developing people to deliver an archery experience that meets the modern demands and expectations of archers. Everything is going to be focused on the archer. Diversity throughout. You've probably heard lots of statements around diversity and inclusivity, but I really want to focus on inclusivity in our sport, which is oft touted as a sport for all. It's key to deliver, inclusivity is key to deliver diversity. It's supporting archers regardless of their gender, their race, their age, ability, and I want them to be able to develop to be at the maximum of their own potential. I want to create a level playing field for everyone, and adopting both a local and a national approach. It's a strategy to, instead of making them look like us, we're going to address their needs much more directly. Localism. Archer recruitment. I talked earlier about our ambitions to recruit 10,000 new people into the sport. We didn't do it. We didn't achieve it. We didn't have the funding. As I said, we lost a significant amount of funding due to the position we were in our governance. But our plans for growth will start in earnest next year. And we're planning our biggest ever recruitment campaign. Both individuals and places where archery take place will be important to this campaign. It'll enhance our capacity for a much more fulfilling archery experience. So we're going to be creating more places where archery can take place and attracting more members, more individuals back into the sport. Digital first. Our organisation's been behind the digital development curve for some time. I mean, we've gone through some developments, some enhancements. I was really pleased to be able to introduce the first e-card, e-membership card, a couple of years ago. But that's really just a start. I'd like to be in a place where it's as easy to find and book an archery experience as it is to order a pizza delivery. We're going to use our digital technology really to start to anticipate and develop our insights and understanding, much more deep understanding at a granular level of our archers and their needs. There are some pretty fine examples out there in the retail sector. For example, Amazon and Tesco have absolutely got this. They know when we're going to order toilet rolls before we know we need them. So I really want to use digital to enhance our understanding and appreciation of the archer's position and needs. Pathway and PODIUM. Well, building on our existing international success, we've got a pretty ambitious objectives here. We're aiming to lead the way for performance archery for the world, for both disabled and able-bodied champions. We intend to create opportunities for people to strive for breakthrough performances without fear of failure. Culture is vitally important to helping people develop to be their best. And personally, I'm looking forward to both Tokyo, but further into the distance, Paris as well in 2024. And that'll almost be like a home games for us. That will be superb. So that's a quick run through our position. I'll talk to you about as we close the door on our current strategy and open the door on our next strategy with our strategic ambitions. So thanks very much for listening to me with this quick canter through. I'm going to hand back to the chair now to field the questions, because I'm sure that there must be a few in there. Field the questions and come back to you with some answers. Thanks for listening.
I'm just checking I was unmuted. Thank you for that, Neil. I think it's good to look at what we've done, and to be honest about what we've not been able to do. But certainly over the last 4 years, I've only been in place 18 months, but the organisation has moved a long way, and certainly our ambitions moving forward are very exciting. But it's all about membership, and we are a membership body, so hence the consultation will come with you. Now, we've had some questions beforehand. I'm just wondering, we've not had any questions I can see typed into the chat. People able to type questions into the chat? Okay.
Yeah, they should be. So yeah.
Good. But let's start off. So the first one came from Andrew Smith on Facebook. What are current membership numbers, and how are we going to make up for lost time and be able to catch up with all those lost beginners? Absolutely, beginners courses and potential members. Andrew says, I'm sure clubs and coaches will not want to run beginners courses all summer, so how can the burden on clubs be lessened? And once we've got them hooked, how do we ensure they stay in the sport longer than 3 years? Yeah, very good question. So I'll throw that over to Neil to answer.
Yeah, thanks for that hospital pass, Mark. Really, really good question, Andrew. And these are the challenges that we're constantly facing and wanting to address. First part of your question is, where are we up to on a membership basis? We've currently got around just short of 23,000 members as of today. We would normally expect to have about 32,000 members by this stage of the renewal period. So we appreciate we are significantly down. We expected to be down, to be quite honest, and we forecast this loss as we crawl our way out of this pandemic. Last year, we ended the year with around about 37,000 members, and I'd certainly like to be back there by close of play this year. Well, in fact, I'd like to beat that. How are we going to keep people in the sport for longer? Well, all of our initiatives, as I mentioned earlier around progression, all our initiatives aim to keep people in the sport for longer. Our research indicated that people leave due to lack of opportunities for progression. So we've got programs like On Target Clubs and Boost, aiming to be more specific for helping people to progress. We've also got our Progress Awards and badges. You've only got to look at an archer's quiver to see how important these Progress Awards are to people. And we recognise that, and I'd really like to develop them further. I can understand the challenges around coaching and beginners opportunities. We are short of coaches, without a doubt. So we will be helping to expand our coaching community to help us deliver more sessions to beginners and to build our membership back up. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be embarking on our most ambitious acquisition campaign next year. So you're very aware of the fact that we hold an event every May called the Big Weekend. Well, next year is going to be the biggest weekend. And in fact, it may be extended to a week. I really want to throw the doors open and get everybody engaged in our sport and encourage participation. So watch this space. We will be encouraging club secretaries, clubs to open up their doors to new participants. We're developing new areas where people will be able to practice the sport with more commercial partnerships and places where you wouldn't normally expect archery to happen. So this will be a major drive for us, which I'm planning for May next year. I mean, goodness knows, I hope beyond all hopes that the promises of the vaccines that will be available will stop it, to put an end to this madness and this pandemic, so we can all emerge out of this much more competent sports people, archers, and hopefully, in my case, administrator. So thanks for your question, Andrew. I wish I had a crystal ball.
Yeah, thanks for that, Neil. I think it is a good question. I think if you see the sort of strategic aims that we're looking at, these all pull together in terms of the digital first. The more we can communicate with new members and existing members, the better able we are to keep them interested. And if we look at our whole structure, different types of memberships, etc. So there's lots we can do there. Great, we are getting some questions in on the chat. I think I'll run through the questions we've had up front and then we'll come back to the chat questions. So the next, quite a technical question from Simon, whose son has been progressing well with his compound bow, and they put in an application for the youth squad, but he's still got lots to learn, don't we all? We've got another member of our club who's been on the recurve pathway, and it's obvious how much he's benefited from this. Is there a similar pathway for compound archers? Neil.
Thanks for your question, Simon. Absolutely. Yeah, we brought compound into the National Talent Development Programme back in 2017. So that's the first entry point to a formal programme, would be that pathway programme. It's open to both recurve and compound junior, cadet and club archers. The athletes are profiled, they're benchmarked across the year against an initiative called What It Takes to Win, and that's an initiative which is managed by our high performance team. So that initiative is benchmarking the capability across that framework, and those with the greatest performance potential are invited to a profiling day at the end of the cycle, from which the successful athletes would be invited to join the National Age Group Academy, or indeed the compound squad. So from there, there could be further progression into the National Compound Squad. So Simon, there is an opportunity, absolutely. We'd encourage your son to put his name forward for that.
Yeah, thank you. And I think one of my big passions is around pathway, in terms of how we get people from the clubs where you all do such a great job through into our sort of national development programme. It's something I'm passionate about. Next question comes from David, who says he should have got it in yesterday. Will we accept it? Yes, is the answer to the first part, so that's easy. David's a member of the British Police Archery Association, which is a loose association of AGB members, and a prerequisite of joining the BPAA as prospective members already be AGB members. Can we explain why we don't recognise BPAA as an association, or if we choose to meet under the auspices of BPAA, abiding by all the AGB rules, etc., our AGB insurance becomes invalid? That's a very technical question, which I will definitely throw at Neil.
Thanks again for the hospital pass. Thanks for the question. Now, it is a frustrating situation, but rest assured we do recognise the BPAA. And one of the slides I put up earlier was around our new strategy, where we're exploring a restructure of our archery delivery mechanism. I think there are many rules in there which really prevent the growth. So we do recognise the BPAA, but in that sort of structural review, we're trying to encourage more archery and recognise more archery organisations and encourage more archery activity. We are also in dialogue with our insurers to improve our offer, so the insurance doesn't become a barrier to entry for this kind of initiative. So I'm wanting to really engage with other archery organisations because after all, we're an umbrella organisation for archery, recognised by the government to develop the sport, and that's our job. We're there to develop the sport, provide opportunities for as many archers as we possibly can. We are focusing on that as part of our new strategy going forwards, and as I say, it'll be accommodated within the structural review.
Good, thanks for that. That in fact leads on to an interesting question from Nikki Ledwick, who said that she's picked up that you spent Saturday morning at the Field Archery AGM whilst I was spending it at the Scottish Archery AGM, and Nikki's asked whether you can give us a synopsis of the presentation. That may be a little optimistic whilst everyone's on screen, but I think talking about our relationship with other people doing archery is very exciting.
Yeah, this is something I've been working on and have been frustrated by for many years now. The fact that there are other archery organisations in the UK that we simply don't speak to or didn't speak to, and they don't speak to us. I made a note that when I presented, I was offered the invitation to present at the National Field Archery Society at their AGM a couple of weeks ago, and it was their 48th AGM. And no one in living memory can remember when Archery GB was invited to present at any of the single 48 events that have been held over the years. So it seemed a really good opportunity, given the current situation with the pandemic, to come together, to share some views, share some ideals, share our values, share our ambitions. Clearly, there was concern, I think, from our initial discussions that we were staging a takeover bid. That isn't the case. We're staging a collaboration bid. So we're looking at potential areas of collaboration around club development, around funding, around targeted participation events, marketing. How to bring in more diversity into our organisations, more inclusivity. More competitions where we can both shoot, both organisations can shoot together. So we're exploring a whole variety of initiatives where we can share the sport, share the pleasure of the sport in the forum and an environment that we all really appreciate. I mean, nowadays we're all getting used to being outside a lot more, and crikey, I'd really welcome the opportunity to get around some really nice woodland and fields to enjoy the sport of archery, not merely shooting in lanes at targets. I think we need to embrace and accommodate every single discipline of archery, be it field, clout, flight, target, every type of bow, from longbow, bare bow, recurve, compound. I really want to increase our diversity of the organisation, so it helps people develop their own style and gives them and maximises those opportunities for each individuals. So that's the basic sort of synopsis about our discussions with NFAS. Really welcome them, and it's great to have received that invitation to discuss.
Thanks, Neil. That's good. Our view certainly is about anybody who picks up a bow and arrow, we want to have a connection with them. And certainly the other thing we've learned through our research is there's an awful lot of people doing archery out there who aren't members of any of the archery associations, and we'd like to bring them in because we get massive economies of scale, and the more people that we can serve, the better it is. And certainly we had at the board we had this long discussion about the objective as to what we call it, which doesn't really matter whether it's diversity or diversify. But it's all about how can we get more people doing more things with bows and arrows. Now, the last of our pre-questions we had before we go on to those that have come in this evening, thank you very much, do keep them coming, was Ben Ledwick, who's raised a very good and difficult point about the pandemic has affected everybody and it's a potential to affect clubs or counties to the points of closing. I spend a lot of my time talking to other sports and to Sport England and UK Sport, and this is not an archery thing only, this is affecting everybody. So there's clubs have to be financially credible to continue. Ben's question is, what advice would you give to clubs or counties who find themselves in this position? I know there's a lot we've been doing. Do you want to talk about that, please?
Yeah. Well, firstly, Ben, thanks for the question. Secondly, thanks for your comment around in the chat box about archery styles coming together. Certainly my philosophy. It's a real challenging time, both for clubs, for counties, for regions, and for the national governing body. SCAS are offering financial assistance in your area, Ben. We also had a club funding programme which gave out over £8,000 and had many counties and regions supporting this too. Sport England also have funding pots which are available for archery clubs, well, any sports clubs that are facing challenges. But we're also looking at, well, not more looking at, we are running webinars on financial sustainability to help clubs plan better for the future. I mean, clearly this once in 200-year event would be quite difficult to plan for, I admit. But any club can come to the sports team and ask for help. And we'll look at working with them and supporting them and helping them seek information on further funding.
Unmuting. Sorry, there's sorry about that. We seem to have a couple of people who've said they've had their questions that haven't made it through to us. I'm not quite sure why that is, so we can come back to that. Looking through the questions that we've had on in the chat box, an awful lot of them are interrelated and are about competitions. So I think if we just try and address a lot of those together, if you want to talk to us, I know through all sports, there's a large group of people who love to compete, and that's not really possible because of the lockdown. So you want to talk, Neil, about what we're doing to get competition going again, please?
Yeah, I mean, clearly the current circumstances, we've just heard what tier we're all in. So we have to accommodate those restrictions. But part of our restructure is going to be around, I mentioned the word localism, and I really want to encourage much more competition at a local level with the support of the national governing body where appropriate, and to get more people involved in competitions. I think one of the great opportunities of a virtual competition is around, maybe archers who thought, well, do you know what, it's not worth me travelling halfway across the country to compete only to be knocked out in the first round. It's not worth it. I'm not good enough. It does give them a really good opportunity to send in a score, and little Amelia from Accrington might be quite delighted at being ranked 550th in the country because she's got her name there, So I'm really excited by the opportunity of introducing these virtual competitions to whet the appetite of more people to engage in the competition community and get the buzz out of competing. There's nothing like it. And so our competition strategy will be focused on localism as well as national competitions and opportunities, and developing those opportunities for people to compete further.
And specifically, what are our plans around sort of national tour and all those things that have been popped into the chat box, Neil?
Yeah, we'll be working on the national tour going forwards. John Knott is, as many of you know, is our competitions manager. So John will be sorting that out for next year. We will obviously aim to get back to normal, to a real situation as quickly as possible. But I think in the interim, it will be virtual until we all get out of this dreadful situation.
Okay, and I think we've got some questions and also some comments in terms of using other venues, and certainly the easier we can make it for people to shoot closer to home, the better it is. Comment here also, I think from Graham, about more tournaments for para archers and just having two a year. I think you're nodding, Neil. You enter?
Yeah. I mean, I think this again harks back, and this is why the inclusivity strand of our strategy is so important. I want to deliver as much opportunity for disabled archers as we do for able-bodied archers, as much opportunity for older archers as we do for younger archers, and as much opportunity for people from different races and ethnic minorities and ethnic communities to do archery as much as anyone from a white Christian national background. So inclusivity is vital for us, and that is aiming to deliver as much opportunity for everybody, regardless of ability, race, gender. I mean, I'm shocked at the fact that our membership consists of 70% men and 30% ladies. So we have a population which is around about 50-50. We should be aiming to reflect that in our clubs, in our archery community, in our coaches, and in everything we do. We don't gender discriminate when it comes to school kids. They all really get into it equally. But I really want to focus on inclusivity to bring everybody into the archery experience and enrich their lives as a consequence.
Yeah, I think this enriching lives through archery, it's something we developed over time, and it's something that I really like, because it works for anybody. It doesn't matter whether you're just starting out or whether you want to be on the Olympic team. It doesn't matter if you're a volunteer or a parent or anybody who's involved. It's good. And certainly the inclusivity, one of the things I'm new to archery, as you know, and one of the things I love is the inclusivity. We won medals in an open championship with a para archer in the team. That to me is just so exciting, and the more we can do to do that, that would be good. Let me see. I think Peter's put in some really good things about different ways of paying and different ways of doing it, which are great, and that comes back to our sort of structure, really, of making it easy for people to do archery. I'm not sure we're ever going to make it quite as easy as ordering a pizza, Neil, or maybe it's not as easy as it is to be sat at home. We won't have full Amazon deliveries today. But that, I think there's great ideas. Chloe's asked a question about the compound. The compound program here with Big Year in 21 World Champs in Australia, how the cadets and juniors expected to prepare, and what are we doing to support them?
Right, a very specific question. The honest answer is I don't know. Chloe, I'll attempt to find out an answer for you and respond accordingly. But right now, I don't know.
Oops, sorry, unmuting myself there. Neil and I don't have all the answers, because there's a team of best part of 40 people at Lillishall doing lots of exciting things. So, but we will find out. We've got another question that wasn't forwarded on. So from Pete, chair of Wyndham. This is about what needs to happen for Archery GB to be able to offer a membership approach based on anniversary membership rather than annual.
Yeah, this is this is a constant question and a constant set of challenges. There are about half the national governing bodies in the United Kingdom have a single anniversary renewal day, and about half that have a sort of an anniversary date dependent on where you first joined. There are pros and cons to both ways, and cash flow is key. So at the start of the season, it enables us to budget really, really accurately. Because at the start of the season, being quite blunt about it, we know our numbers of members and we know how much money we have to spend on developing the sport, on safeguarding, on communications, and all the other infrastructure activities that we do. So if we moved ourselves away from that single year anniversary, it presents us with quite a lot of cash flow challenges. So in that first year, it could be absolutely crazy to make that move. Maybe in the second, third, fourth year, well, by the time it's sort of evened out, it may well be appropriate. But it is a long lasting question that we often wrestle with, because, as I say, there are pros and cons to both ways. But in our membership structure review and our structural review, we will be looking at that again in a lot more detail and depth. And it's certainly a challenge that I want to be very comfortable with, that it suits our members, that it suits the organisation, and I will do anything to encourage more participation for people shooting more arrows more often. And if that's a key to unlocking further participation, I don't have a problem with it, but we do have to very, very carefully consider the impact on our cash flows.
Yeah, and I think other sports do it, as Neil said, in different ways. And one of the things I think we would no doubt look at is the opportunity for direct debits, which makes life easier for club secretaries and certainly for members, and then possibly the ability then for people to spread it out over the year, which resolves our cash flow situation. So there's lots of things, but this is all going to be part of this broader review as to what does membership look like, because currently it's quite narrow. Effectively, you either are a member or you're not, and it's based on your age. Whereas we want to broaden that out, and I think trying to get parents of juniors involved, if they've got a £10 a year membership where they get an e-zine, and it keeps them involved, it keeps them feeling part of the archery community, and maybe it makes us an extra 10 quid a year, which we can then plough back into it. So there's a whole host of things that we're looking at now.
Yeah, what we want to do is really align the membership fees and the membership structure to activity. So if someone wants to enter a load of competitions, it may well be a different membership product from somebody who wants to be a more social archer. So it's really, again, it's around understanding and appreciating the nuances that exist within the membership base and putting the archer at the centre of it. So we develop a membership product that's right for you. And there are lots of yous out there. So we want to make sure that you are addressed, you're respected for your individuality, and we have a membership product which is suitable. As I said earlier, the membership structure has been in place since the 1950s. We've now got the opportunity to get greater levels of insight, to explore your activity, to build a membership product around the nature of your activity, the intensity, the volume, the activities that you like, and develop a membership product which is absolutely suitable for you.
No, that's good. Now another elephant has entered the room. Good question, Graham, around shooting at home. We've actually been discussing no shooting elephants. That's not allowed. That's bad. It's something you and I were discussing last week, I think, Neil.
Indeed. I mean, clearly this current pandemic is restricting individuals' opportunity to shoot. There are challenges. Shooting at home has a massive variety of different situations that you could be in. You could have a 50-meter driveway, or you could be shooting into a 5-meter garage. So there are lots and lots of different situations that an insurer would have to underwrite. So we are discussing this. You'd be glad to know, Graham. But please don't expect an immediate answer. One of the insurers, being insurers, they have to manage risk. So they have to have a real solid appreciation of the risk. And part of it may be that we ask individuals that want to shoot at home on a temporary basis in order to respond to the restrictions around a pandemic. We may have a temporary fix to enable people to shoot at home in such dramatically different periods of time. I don't know what that might look like, but we are in dialogue with insurers and risk assessors at the moment, so we can really get a clearer picture around what the risks are and what the opportunities are.
Yeah, I think that's good. And I mean, one of the things, actually we've been discussing over the last month or so is we became conscious with the pandemic and government rules. It was all quite frantic, and we did feel that maybe some of the messages we put out were a bit negative in terms of you can't do this and you can't do that. And now we're beginning to think, well, what can we do and how can we help people shoot safely? But there's a lot to work through that. That I was thinking actually ties in quite neatly with the question from David about TV coverage, because what we don't want is TV coverage where someone's accidentally shot their neighbour whilst shooting from home. Obviously, the whole TV and coverage thing is difficult for any minor sport, and I use the phrase minor sport to describe anything that isn't men's football, tennis, golf, Formula One, and that's about it. Now, I know we have actually been doing some stuff around that, and Neil's been doing an awful lot of work in the background with a lot of the other non-sort of big money sports to try and get us on TV. Do you want to talk about that, Neil? Take yourself off mute. Nope, you're still on mute. It's saying you're on mute. What I think. I think whilst Neil's trying to work out how to turn himself off mute, which is quite interesting. Based on, I think I think he's gone out, he'll come back in. Eric's asked the question about how do you describe our financial position looking ahead for the next few years? How at risk is the organisation of downsizing services and coverage? We're monitoring this on a weekly basis. We've obviously taken a lot of steps that we can do. We've made use of the furlough scheme, which something we would have preferred not to, but it enabled us to do that. And we are looking at the staffing, we're looking at our premises. We have taken out a lot of cost, and we're looking to continue to take out cost where we can, but whilst maintaining the services that we offer, because we're conscious that we want to be here as a functioning organisation come next summer, hopefully when we're all vaccinated and everybody's back shooting. As you'll know from your time on the board, Eric, we had a lot of debates about reserves, and as all prudent organisations, we kept reserves. My view is reserves are there for a very rainy day, and I cannot think of a rainier day in my lifetime. So we will have to look at those. We've done some great work and have managed to get so far about £200,000 of additional funding from Sport England and UK Sport to keep us going. So we're there. It's all about whether we can keep the membership up, and maybe to a certain extent we've got a couple of dozen members here. Please encourage people to pay their membership fees. It's £47 a year if you're joined through a club. That's 90p a week. It's less than a coffee, etc. But it enables us to keep the organisation going, to make sure that we can run the coaching courses, because I'm conscious Lee asked about how many coaches we've got, and we didn't answer that, but not enough. But we need money to train the trainers, to run the coaching courses, to keep the judges going, to put on the tournaments. So that 90p a week that we ask you to pay goes towards all of those things that we do. So our view is if we can get 80 to 85% of the members who would normally rejoin to rejoin, then we are fine. But we're aware that it's a challenge, as it is for everybody.
Can you hear me now, by the way?
You are, yes, you're back.
I figured out that the best way to do it is leave the conversation and rejoin it. So thank you very much, Mark, for filling in. Just a bit more depth on the numbers there for Eric's benefit and everyone else's. You know, we're forecasting a significant loss to the business. The impact of the memberships is around about a £420,000 loss in income. So that's as a consequence of no renewal or fewer renewals, of a lot fewer new memberships, and the impact of our instructor income. So we've lost about 420,000, but we have put in initiatives and savings to cover around about £230,000 of those losses. So we're taking some very difficult decisions throughout the business, but we've been, as Mark said, been applying for every single bit of grant funding that we can possibly shake a stick at from the government, and we are continuing to do so. But our forecast for 2020, it's grim. You know, I can't hide behind that. It is grim, and we're doing everything that we can to save on cost but not compromise service.
Yeah,
just in terms of coaching as well, I noticed there was another question earlier about how many coaches. We've got just shy of 2,000 coaches, but clearly we want to make sure we get more. So the development of that initiative around empowered coaching is one that's very, very important to us.
Yeah, and I think we're aware, as a lot of other sports are, that there's also the issue with coaches and also judges, that these people have got their weekends back, and we need to keep them motivated and enthused. In my other sporting life, I'm chair of the Regional Umpires Committee for British Rowing in the Northwest, and I've got that exact problem, that people have realised that there's better things to do with their life than stand in muddy fields at a weekend. So tempting people back, I think, is important. If we can do that. What GDPR? Good question for Peter. What GDPR hoops do we have to jump through? We do have a plan to, abiding by GDPR, I assure you, to contact former members and tempt them back. And that ties in again to this whole idea of what is membership and what are we offering people, and is there sort of an associate membership at a lower cost if you just want to stay involved, and interested in getting the magazine rather than that. Actually, should I talk about the magazine? Because I know I was talking to somebody about Scottish Archery raised this with me. There was an issue that the people who produced the magazine sadly went bust, but we didn't lose any money, you'll be pleased to know. We made a decision over the summer not to go to print because it saves us an awful lot of money, and Neil's talked about the numbers, and we've been e-zining people, so hopefully you've had that. I'm with those of you who say I quite like the printed magazine with the pretty pictures, because it sits on the kitchen table and I flick through it whilst I'm eating my breakfast, etc. So we are in the process of trying to find someone to print it, but cheaper.
Indeed we are. But I think right now we have to focus on cost savings to ensure that the organisation and the sport really has its best fighting chance. As far as the GDPR question, I think Emma's answered that we've got around about 25,000 email addresses in the organisation that we can make contact with. I did ask for this to happen when I first joined Archery GB, when I was told we have no addresses because we throw them all away. So we've been collecting and seeking permissions to make contact with archers, because we know they circulate in and out of the sport depending on their own life stage. Have they left university? Have they had kids? Got married? Got a house? Come back into the sport? So we're really, really keen to encourage people that have enjoyed our sport to pick up a bow and arrow again. So there will be a fairly significant marketing campaign to bring these people back into the sport, which will be kicking off. We're piloting it initially in Northern Ireland and a couple of clubs in England, so that we kind of tweak it and get it right. Clearly, there's no point in doing a membership campaign at a time when the clubs are closed and we can't shoot. So it'll be very much dipping, which have the ability to shoot outdoors should they want to. Interesting question. If I could just jump in on the question, Mark, about coaches. If we want to get more coaches trained, why do we only have approximately 8 coaches? We don't have 8 out of design, Philip. We have 8 as a consequence. And I really want to drive that number a lot higher. As for the intellectual property for the modules being not owned by AGB, I'm afraid I can't comment on that because I'm unaware of that as a challenge. But I know that we've worked very hard to develop our initial and entry-level coaching documentation, course content to spread the word and get more coaches engaged. I think one of the other items of enrichment, we've long recognised in the sport that to get good coaches, to get empathic and empowered coaches is key to our success. And I really want to build up the image of coaching, very much in that like tennis and like golf, you go and see the golf pro. Well, I would really like to develop archery coaches to have similar standing and status. And I'm not embarrassed if they want to earn money out of it. I would absolutely welcome it. So we can enrich their lives economically, we can enrich their lives socially and physically and mentally. So it's all part of our enriching vision, Philip. I don't have the specific answers around IP, but if you email Emma, as she put her email address in the chat box earlier, I'd be interested to explore that with you and comment more appropriately.
Right, good. So this is good. The chat box has really taken off now, which is great. I'm just trying to work out where we go next with it. So there's some nice comments. Slightly different question before we come back to this is Chloe's asked about details for the 2021 ranking system. Do you know that yet, Neil?
I'm afraid I don't. If Aaron is on the call and if Aaron knows the answer to the question, I would encourage him to jump in and answer Chloe directly if you can. Is he there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Neil. I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that either. Lee Miller's just asked a similar question as well around rankings and national tour events. There is, as Neil said earlier, there's a lot that we still need to do around national tour events and rankings for next year. Hopefully in the next couple of months we'll be able to get to that work and be able to communicate out to everybody. We're hoping, as we all are hoping, that 2021 will be a slightly better year for us, but obviously there's some thought and some decisions that we need to make, and we need people like John and our volunteer competition management group to help us, support us to be able to do that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Aaron. There's a lot of sort of good ideas cropping up here as well in terms of sort of how you set the magazine so you only get one, and I like the idea about we should default to that, and then also some stuff, buddying up between coaches is useful. And Karen's raised the point that if you start volunteering you don't have time to shoot, so what we actually need is more volunteers. So and I have a great view on volunteers is we tend to, all organisations that rely on volunteers tend to overload them because they're keen, and you actually have to say to people, will you do an hour's judging, or will you do an hour's coaching, so then you can still enter the competition or still get your own shooting. So I think that's good. Emma, actually talking to you, can are we capturing these chats so we can use them again, because that would be useful?
Yes, we are. Yeah, they're captured automatically.
Right. Okay. Graham, about membership cards not having club name on, and also whether there's any disability sent by a disabled member, is, I suppose that raises the question whether that's something that is relevant or not.
Again, I'm happy to include that as part of our membership review. Some individuals don't mind having a notification that they're disabled on their membership cards. Some members do. So I think that will be part of our membership review. The service that we give to members, the content on their card will be fairly important. So I can't answer that directly, but we'll ensure that we are appropriate for whichever members. I would like to address the question around volunteers that Mark just mentioned as well, just to amplify that point. Having coaches and judges not being able to shoot because they're always too busy and in demand. When we went out to the whole membership in July, we took the opportunity to ask individuals to step forward as volunteers, and 1,000 people came forward. So, crikey, if we can't find some developing coaches and judges' expertise in that group, then we shouldn't be here. But I'm really enthused by that number coming forward, and I'm super grateful for everybody that does already volunteer for the organisation, and great to see some new faces.
Right. Interesting. So, yeah, David's pointed out that you were just about to launch into the whole TV thing when you disappeared. So should we go back to that?
Yeah, thanks for the reminder, David. The archery on TV. Clearly, we're not a mainstream sport. We're not the football, the cricket, the swimming, the cycling, etc. But recognising every 4 years there is a big hiatus where individuals on a global scale get very excited about a lot of different sports, because that's prompted by the Olympics and the Paralympics, and indeed Commonwealth Games, but I'll mention that in a moment. So we became part of a project which sought to give exposure to sports in between that 4-year hiatus. So an organisation was established. It's a collaboration between several different sports and UK Sport and the BOA and the BPA. And we set up an organisation, a new business, a new company called GB Sport Media Limited. And I was asked and invited to sit on the board of GB Sport Media Limited, where we take a range of sports, we take the intellectual property rights of various competitions, and those sports will be featured on a player, rather like, for example, I don't know, a DAZN app on your phone, or something like BBC Sport, for example, so that it gives fans an opportunity to see a whole variety of different sports, because we all appear in one particular place. I'll tell you, there's an analogy. This sort of model was recognised clearly some months ago, and an organisation has developed a collaboration between ITV, BBC, Channel 4, something called BritBox, which you may be familiar with. So this features basically all the soaps and entertainment programmes are all poured into BritBox, and then you can pick and choose whatever you like from there. So if you're I'm a celebrity, get me out of here fan, great. But if you're a Panorama fan, that's also great. So there's opportunities to now see a much wider variety of entertainment from a single place. So what we've sought to do is bring together a whole variety of sports to have them hosted in a single place, which can then be televised and selected and accessed by a population predominantly within the UK, but clearly people will be able to look at that from outside the UK as well. Now, that's good for our sport, for exposure, but clearly there's a commercial aspect to that as well. The intention of us getting behind this project at such an early stage, and believe me, I was one of the first people to agree to it for our sport. And the point about getting in it from such an early stage is identifying income earning opportunities. Because anywhere that's televised, it clearly is backed by sponsorship, by advertising, and creates an income. So we have invested in this, but we will get all of our investment back before the profits are shared. So it's a really, really, really good initiative. It probably will not be launched in time for Tokyo next year, but certainly for the Paris cycle, it'll be around. And I expect it to be launched sometime after Tokyo next year. But it'll develop things and content like backstories for athletes, hometowns, techniques, and interesting entertainment. But you'll be able to access whatever sport you like that's an Olympic or Paralympic sport via this new initiative.
Good, thank you. Right, I'm conscious that we're now at 10 past 8, so we don't want to run on too long, but I think we've got a few good questions here. Muriel's asked a very good question: what happens with her coach renewals? I don't know whether the same applies with judges. I've got a problem with my British rowing umpiring renewal because I've not been able to do the requisite number of events. So presumably we're just going to roll that over. We'll do something sensible with that.
Yeah, I haven't addressed that point specifically with our head of coaching, but thanks for raising that, Muriel. I'll make sure that we put a communication out there which answers your point.
Yeah, we're not going to let you get away. That's the key point, really, isn't it? A good question from Len here about plans to expand facilities in Lillishall for pathway athletes. Fabulous idea. We currently have a problem in Lillishall in terms of actually having enough places for our Olympic athletes to shoot, and we're in the process of they're currently moving because we had an issue, but longer term I think it's something we would love to do, because I think the more we can integrate, I think when I sort of first was asked to be chair and looked at the organisation, you could, in some respects you could say if you look at it badly, it's two organisations. We've got a membership organisation on one hand, and we've got a high performance team on the other. And what we want to do, and what I'm desperate to do, is to integrate the two, because they feed each other. If we do well and we get the telly exposure and we get medals at Olympics and things, that encourages people into the clubs. If we then got a great pathway, they move through and we get better performance at the Olympics. So the more we can do that, the better. So imminently, Lynn, no, unfortunately, just space, money, and all those other things that get in the way. But something we would like to do, absolutely.
Yeah, the current restrictions, Lynn. So when you say imminently, I'm assuming within the next 3 or 4 months. Currently, there are only exemptions for athletes on the elite programmes sponsored by the British government. So unfortunately, that doesn't extend to the pathway athletes just yet. But echoing Mark's comments, we'd love to expand our facilities and also expand our opportunities for pathway athletes to practice perhaps a little bit nearer home. So we are looking at high performance archery centres, not just at Lillishall, but throughout the country, so that people can meet closer to their own localities.
Yeah. I'm fully aware that if you said where would be the most inconvenient place to centre a headquarters, Lillishall would be quite high up the list. I think Ben's raised a point about volunteers who aren't AGB members. Absolutely, and that comes back to the thing we've mentioned a couple of times is we've got to review our membership structure, so there's an opportunity for people to do that. Certainly, I know with my own experience, parents of juniors are brilliant. Those are often the people who run clubs and do stuff. So there's a little knack those of you who run clubs do. You invite them in slowly and offer them a cup of tea, and then when you've got them ensnared, you get them doing something. So I think Emma's put up, there is a questionnaire. So before you disappear, if you could say, whether you found this useful. It's really disappointing that we've not been able to come around the country and see you all face to face, because it's great. But this is brilliant. We're a membership organisation, and having the opportunity to talk to our members and find out what you're thinking, and for you to find out what it is that we're doing is fabulous. So thanks, Ben, for that. So I think, as it's now 8:15 and people probably have other things to do, or actually maybe not because we're all locked down, but I'll wind this up, but to say thank you all for coming along and joining in. Thanks for all the questions that you've asked. If the burning question comes to you, obviously the minute it's ended, as it always does, just email us and we'll come back to you with an answer. But thanks, Emma, for organising it all, and Neil for answering all the hard questions, and everyone for coming along. So thank you very much.
Yes, thanks again, everybody. Really good to see you. I really hope to be seeing you face to face before too long.
That would be great. Look forward to seeing you again. Okay, bye.